The river was calm on the surface, but beneath it, the current moved like a restless beast. Cold fog rolled across the broken wooden bridge as headlights flickered in the distance. Sarah stood frozen at the edge, clutching her coat tight, her breath shaking. She had taken this road hundreds of times before, but tonight something felt wrong. The world around her felt heavier than usual, as if danger itself was watching. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen eyes moved silently. She did not notice the shadow following her steps, a large German shepherd, alert, wounded, and trembling, yet determined. Fate had quietly crossed their paths long before this moment, and tonight would reveal why. The German shepherd limped through the wet gravel, blood trickling from a deep cut on his leg. Just hours earlier, he had been thrown from a moving truck by illegal fighters who no longer wanted him. Broken, starving, and abandoned, he had dragged himself through rain and darkness searching for warmth, safety, or perhaps purpose. When he first saw Sarah ahead on the bridge, his instincts sharpened. Something about her fear called to him. Every trained nerve in his body told him danger was close. Pain screamed through his injured leg with every step, yet he followed, silent as shadow, driven by something deeper than survival. Sarah's phone slipped from her shaking hand and shattered near the edge of the bridge. She bent down to retrieve it, unaware that someone had stepped out from behind the trees. A man stood there, face hidden beneath a hood, eyes cold with intent. The quiet snapped into terror. Her heart slammed in her chest as he took a step forward. Words failed her. Her body froze. The night swallowed her scream before it could fully escape. At that exact moment, a deep growl tore through the fog, low, powerful, and full of warning. The German shepherd stepped between them, bloodied but unbroken. The attacker hesitated for a brief moment, surprised by the sudden presence of the massive dog. Rain began falling harder, drumming against the bridge, turning the wooden planks slick. The German shepherd's fur stood soaked and spiked, muscles tight despite his injuries. He did not bark wildly, he stood still, eyes locked on the threat, chest rising slowly. This was not just defense. This was a promise, a vow. Sarah felt it without understanding it. This animal was ready to die for her, even though she was a stranger. Fear twisted into rage inside the attacker, who reached into his pocket as he took another step forward. The German shepherd shifted instantly, positioning his body to shield Sarah completely. His wounded leg trembled but did not bend. Sarah's tears mixed with the rain as she whispered without realizing it, "Please, don't." In that moment, no one knew whether this was danger or love. What was certain was that the choice had already been made. The German shepherd was prepared to risk everything. The attacker lunged forward suddenly, pulling a knife from the shadows. The flash of metal caught Sarah's eye for half a second before fear stole her breath. The German shepherd reacted faster than thought. With a deep snarl, he launched himself forward, ignoring the screaming agony exploding from his wounded leg. His body slammed into the man with full force, knocking him back against the railings of the bridge. Wood cracked beneath their weight. Sarah stumbled backward, slipping on the rain-soaked planks, barely keeping herself upright as chaos erupted inches away from her face. The man recovered quickly, swinging the knife wildly. The blade slashed through the air, cutting across the German shepherd's shoulder. Blood sprayed against the rain, painting the bridge red. Still, the dog did not retreat. Pain only sharpened his focus. He locked his jaws onto the attacker's arm, twisting with brutal precision. A howl of pain exploded into the night as the knife dropped and skidded across the wet wood. The river below roared louder, as if responding to the violence above. The attacker slammed his free fist into the dog's skull again and again, desperate to break free. Each blow echoed sickeningly through Sarah's ears, and she screamed his name without knowing it, screaming for the dog as if he belonged to her. The German shepherd staggered but held on. This was no ordinary animal driven by instinct alone. This was loyalty chosen. This was love born in a heartbeat. Rain poured heavier now, washing blood into the cracks of the bridge, carrying it toward the waiting river below. With a violent shove, the attacker broke loose and kicked the wounded dog hard in the ribs. The German shepherd crashed against the railing, barely missing the edge. His breathing turned ragged, lungs burning, vision blurring. The man turned toward Sarah again, rage pouring from him in waves. She was frozen in terror, no strength left to run, no voice left to scream. Everything seemed lost in that single heartbeat of silence. Then, with a sound that tore through every limit of pain, the German Shepherd rose again. Every muscle screamed in protest, yet he placed himself back between Sarah and the man. Blood dripped steadily onto the planks. One eye had begun to swell shut. Still, his stance was unbroken. His message was clear: to reach her, the attacker would have to go through him. And that was a price he was willing to pay with his life. The attacker's face twisted into something terrifying, a mix of panic and fury. He charged forward with reckless force, slamming into the German Shepherd once more. Both bodies crashed against the already damaged railing. The old wood screamed in agony before snapping apart completely. In a split second that felt like eternity, dog and attacker tumbled over the edge of the bridge together, vanishing into the roaring black river below. Sarah's scream ripped through the storm as she rushed to the broken railing, heart shattering at the empty darkness beneath her. The river swallowed them with violent force. Freezing water slammed into the German Shepherd's injured body like knives of ice. The weight of the attacker dragged him downward as currents twisted and spun them violently. Water flooded his lungs. Pain exploded through every nerve. Yet even as survival panicked inside him, the German Shepherd fought with every last fragment of strength. He kicked and clawed in the darkness, twisting his body free from the man's grip as the current tried to tear them apart. Above the surface, Sarah collapsed to her knees at the edge of the broken bridge, sobbing uncontrollably into the rain. The night felt impossibly silent without the dog's presence. The bridge, the river, the storm, all swallowed by grief. She whispered prayers into the darkness, begging for a miracle she barely believed could exist. She replayed his brave stand again and again in her mind, the way he had risen despite his wounds, the way he had shielded her body without hesitation. Beneath the surface, the German Shepherd's strength began to fade. Blood clouded the water around him. His legs grew heavy. The current slammed him against submerged rocks, stealing what little energy remained. His thoughts blurred in the darkness: hunger, pain, abandonment, and then, above all, one final image: Sarah standing alone on the bridge. With that image came a final surge of will. With a desperate thrust of his powerful back legs, he forced himself upward toward a faint shimmer of light. The German Shepherd's head finally broke the surface, gasping air in ragged, desperate gulps. The current carried him violently downstream, far from the bridge, slamming him against debris and branches. Each impact nearly stole his consciousness. Yet he kept his head above water, driven by something that defied logic and pain alike. The river had claimed enough lives. Tonight, it would not claim his, not yet. Sarah didn't remember how long she stayed at the bridge. Minutes or hours passed in a haze of rain and tears. Eventually, distant sirens cut through the storm as passing drivers had witnessed the fall and called for help. Police lights painted the fog red and blue. Rescuers searched the river tirelessly with flashlights and ropes, calling out into the darkness for any sign of life. They found the attacker's body washed against the rocks downstream, lifeless. But the German Shepherd was nowhere to be found. Despite the grim silence, Sarah refused to leave. Wrapped in a blanket, shaking with cold and shock, she stayed on the riverbank as crews searched through the night. She described the dog to everyone she could: his wounds, his courage, the way he had stood between her and death without knowing her name. Her voice broke every time she spoke of him. Officers gently told her that survival in waters like these was nearly impossible. Still, she shook her head through tears and whispered, "He's still alive. I know he is." Miles downstream, the German Shepherd lay tangled in broken branches along the muddy bank of the river. His body was shattered with exhaustion. Every breath burned. Blood soaked into the mud beneath him. The storm had passed, but cold moonlight revealed how close to death he truly was. His chest barely moved. His eyes fluttered open and shut, fighting to stay conscious. Pain crushed him in slow waves. Luck, or fate, shifted again when early fishermen discovered him among the debris at dawn. At first they thought he was already dead. Then one of them saw his chest rise weakly. Panic turned into urgency as they rushed him into their truck and sped toward the nearest veterinary clinic. The road blurred beneath the tires as a silent battle between life and death unfolded in the back seat. The German Shepherd's heartbeat flickered dangerously low. As surgeons fought to stabilize his shattered body, Sarah sat alone in a police station, numb with fear and guilt. She replayed the fall over and over again, wondering if he had survived, wondering if her life had cost him his. Hours later, a call came that changed everything. A wounded German shepherd had been found alive miles downstream. He was in surgery. Her legs nearly gave out as hope crashed into her chest like lightning. The miracle was not over yet. The surgery lasted for hours. Torn muscles were repaired. Broken ribs were stabilized. Deep wounds were cleaned and closed. More than once, the German shepherd's heart nearly stopped. Each time it faltered, the machines screamed, and the veterinarians fought harder. Outside the operating room, Sarah sat with her hands clenched together, silently begging for a life that was never meant to be hers to begin with, yet had become everything to her. When the surgeon finally stepped out, exhausted but smiling, Sarah collapsed into tears before a single word was spoken. The German shepherd had survived. Recovery would be long, painful, and uncertain, but he was alive. Against impossible odds. Against the river. Against death itself. Days later, Sarah stepped quietly into the recovery room. The German shepherd lay wrapped in bandages, breathing softly. His head barely lifted when he sensed her presence, but when his one clear eye met hers, something ancient and powerful passed between them. Recognition. Trust. Love. She knelt beside him and whispered his new name through tears, Miracle. His tail barely moved, but it moved enough. Months passed. Wounds healed. Strength returned slowly. And when the day came for Miracle to leave the clinic, it was not with a leash toward a shelter, it was into Sarah's waiting arms. The woman he saved became the family he never had. Some call it danger. Some call it instinct. But those who know the truth call it love. Because love is the only force powerful enough to make a wounded soul leap into death without hesitation, and return.